and some elements of ABGA, led by former governor of Imo State, Richard Sokoroja. They came together and formed an alliance that metamorphosed into a new political party called the All Progressives Congress. Because of that coalition and force, they were able to come together, project one presidential candidate in the person of former President Buhari, and it helped. At the fourth attempt of him trying to be president, he was able to muster enough votes, particularly from the south, to add to his bank of votes, his 12 million votes that he always got from the north, and then he was able to become president. Now, having done 2 elections in 2019 and 2023, and having seen that it will be difficult to upstage the ruling All Progressive Congress, so the opposition elements are now beginning to use the same playbook of APC to see if they can also upstage the party. But they are still having difficulties to come together to use the African Democratic Congress, ADC, as a platform. And somebody like P2B is also hoping that they will be able to recover Labour Party from Abure, which appears to be happening based on the current, the most recent Federal High Court ruling in Abuja on last Friday, that the tenure of Abure has expired. So if the Labour Party is able to recover, if the P2B group that are in the majority, including members of the NLC and the TUC, if they are able to recover Labour Party from Abure, then it will be another strong platform to launch. But even so, Labour Party will still need to partner with other coalition parties in order to make it.
Now,
I don't think any of the presidential...
Now that you're mentioning the Labour Party, yes, what do you make of it that these coalition politicians, about being in ADC, has a foothold on other political parties? This is different from the playbook that we witnessed in 2015.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same.
So with this, are you saying, we know that this may be quite early, but are you seeing a roadmap for victory for the APC and President Bola Tinubu?
Like what we are doing now is trying to forecast,
yes,
trying to speculate as analysts and public affairs commentator, that politics is very fluid, and a day can make a difference. Sure. So we still have time. Like what is happening now, if they are able to get their acts together, I'm talking about the opposition parties, they may stand a good chance to give the ruling APC, a run for their money.
Comrade,
yes,
let us analyze based on what is happening presently. You've mentioned P2B, yes, and he has publicly stated that he will be on the ballot. Now, another person that is most likely to be on the ballot is former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. I use the word most likely. As of today, let's assume that these men will be on the ballot. And given that the PDP is witnessing a rebate, and we've seen them wooing the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, to contest, come back into the fold, contest. Now, here is the scenario. We have a P2B who is commanding from the east, a Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, also from the south, south, who from the happenings recently will seem to have the trust of the north. And then, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who equally is from the north and would command the vote of the predominantly northern Muslims. I ask again, do you see a roadmap for the APC and President Bola Tinubu to victory in 2027?
Of course, from the scenario you painted, opposition will divide their votes. And that will see the incumbent.
Now, talking about this division, the APC in 2023 garnered 8,994,726 votes. That's the APC with which the president was declared winner with 12 states. Then the PDP garnered 6,984,520,000 votes, 520,000 votes, winning another 12 states. Then the Labour Party got 6,101,533 votes with 12 states, and the FCT. And we are assuming as at today that these men will be in the ring come 2027. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had only 12 million votes, which will be balkanized in the south, and perhaps getting close to 25% from the north. In view of this, do you really see a roadmap to victory?
The scenario you painted, politics does not work like that. I can even tell you that he has consolidated more than 2023. Remember that time President Tinubu was not in office. He was racing against so many odds, including some elements within his party trying to frustrate him. But now, he is the incumbent president. He has done a whole lot of groundwork that the Labour Party candidates will have to contend with him even within the Southeast, South-South. And of course, the incumbent president will take the whole of Southwest. He will take majority of the, in fact, majority of his vote came from the North. Then, in 2023. So if you are going to, let me even tell you another scenario that may not work, but if it works, it may affect the incumbent president. If, like you earlier said, if Jonathan is on the ballot, former President Jonathan, which is unlikely, and Peter Obi is on the ballot, then you have the incumbent president from the Southwest, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on the ballot. Yeah. It means that they are going to divide their votes in the South. Then former Vice President Atiku will be the only candidate from the North. And you know, politics of sentiment in Nigeria, most likely, because he got majority of his votes in the last election from the North. And with the feelings in the North currently, even though the incumbent president, the APC is still in charge of many of the states in the North, but the sentiments in terms of the hollow polloi, the grassroots, the common man in the street, they may go for their another brother, because so that means
there is a disaffection for the president.
That's what I'm saying, with the current disaffection,
yes,
in parts of the North. But there is still time.
So the current president is losing that base.
He's not. Let me say, like I said earlier, that it is still far from the election day.
Sure.
But we are assuming the election is tomorrow.
Yes.
But the election is not tomorrow. We still have not up to 2 years, but we still have nearly 2 years for the election to happen. And that disaffection we are talking about, the president will come up with a strategy to overcome that he is currently doing. If you look at the number of Northerners he's giving political appointments, if you look at the way he's now trying to tilt developmental projects and the budget towards the North, if you look at the last Saturday's by-election, the outcome that APC won,
let's look into it.
Then you will understand that he may change that disaffection before long.
Are you saying
opposition is to come together?
Are you saying that with APC being able to win 12 constituency in this by-election, that is a pointer that the president is most likely, through his strategy dominate 2027, assuming the election?
Yeah, it counts. It counts for the party.
It counts?
It counts for the party. Who made all these victories during the by-election possible? Most of them are incumbent governors, and they have majority of the governors. And no governor will allow himself to be defeated in his state. They have the resources, they have the manpower, they have the reach. To some extent, they control the coercive forces.
With that, let's bring it home to the southeast. Do you see or think that the APC can win the southeast, assuming, given the state of things today?
If P2D will be on the ballot, it will be APC, Southeast will be a battleground. It will not be a rollover like it was in 2023 for the Labour Party candidate there. Because as we speak, the strength of APC in the Southeast has increased. Practically all the governors are promising the president, even if I don't come into your party, but I will work for you. You know, it's like a quid pro quo. You scratch my back, I scratch your back.
But this was equally the situation on ground as at 2023, when P2B, like you mentioned, was said to not have any structures in place.
No, granted that he has a bigger movement, which is a formidable force. They don't depend on any party. They don't depend on any structure.
No,
but that lack of structure.
Bearing that in mind, that the obedient movement is a solid structure, and given what is happening today, P2B seems to have made inroads to the north.
That if you don't have the political structure, your mass appeal, there's the level they can take you. That was what happened to Buhari.
But this mass appeal,
yes,
this mass appeal garnered
and that's the point now.
States and FCT.
Buhari had always won 12 million votes in the north. He never became president until he partnered with. Let me tell you why.
He partnered with.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
He partnered with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yes, yes.
Now P2B is partnering with the north. El-Rufai is there.
Is El-Rufai the north?
Atiku Abubakar is there.
You
are talking about the structure.
The north is divided.
You are talking about the structure. The north is divided.
The governors, ministers, other political appointees are with the president. Those against the president are those out of power in the north. And so, what is going to happen is that if you have mass appeal, but you don't have the structure to win elections. Remember that Labour Party didn't have even polling agents in more than 40% of polling units across the country. I think we don't have a polling agent to monitor what is happening in the remotest part of Sokoto or Maiduguri or Adamawa. And you can only win in some areas, but you won't know what is happening there. Granted that is making it really good enough, but you still need the political structure. If he partners with the North, and if the North are able to overcome their suspicion that he may not do only one term like he's promising them, if they trust him that okay, P2B will do only one term, so that the North, the power will go back to the North, and they give him that support, and he's able to get a formidable candidate from the North, they will make a serious impact.
If not
but if Atiku is running from the North, P2B is running from the South,
and the president.
No, forget about Jonathan. I don't believe he will run.
Okay.
One is that.
But let's assume. Let's assume he runs.
I can't assume because I know what is happening. There is no platform for him to even run. PDP is not available for him. Wike is still in charge of PDP, and Wike has said he will support President Bola Tinubu for second term. He is in charge of PDP. Who will give Jonathan or anybody the platform to run?
Let's bring it to the Southeast Enugu State, for instance. The APC making an inroad to Enugu State with the performance of a PDP governor.
You see, incumbency is a double-edged sword. If you judge the governor as being performing, when the campaign starts, the opposition will tell you the areas he has failed, his shortcomings. I won't mention them because I'm not assessing him now. Now, that's why I say it is double-edged. Meanwhile, he is trying to come into APC. So,
you have that privileged information?
Is it not obvious to you?
We've not heard him declare.
I didn't say he has declared. I said that he's making efforts.
That means you have a privileged information.
Of course, it's no longer privilege. It's a common street information. It's a common knowledge.
And in your estimation, if and should the governor move to the APC, do you think he would still win Enugu State?
If the APC people in the state accept him.
If
yes,
the APC people
and
in
if
the
they yield,
accept him.
yes, if they yield the structure. Wait now, let me land on my. If they accept him and yield the structure to him to even run, I don't think you will have any serious.
All right, comrade. On that note, viewers, if you're watching us, this is still the Insight on Aneke TV, where we bring experts' opinions, analysts, to x-ray and dissect issues that are making the headlines and affecting the common man on the street who live these issues, these stories, these topics. We've heard from Comrade Kenneth, former vice president of the Nigerian Union of Journalists from Southeast, and public affairs analyst, a man who has lived it, seen it, and has written about it, and now is speaking about it. Now it's left for you, our viewers, to send us your views, what you think about these issues, or the issues you want us to raise in our next edition. Reach us at Aneke TV on our social handles, Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, and YouTube. And remember, your voice matters. At this point, we will draw the curtain on today's program. And thank you for being part of the inaugural edition of this program. Comrade, it's a pleasure speaking with you.
It's my pleasure to be your first guest in the inaugural program.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Welcome to Aneke TV, the heartbeat of culture, truth, and innovation. From breaking news to inspiring documentaries, from grassroots traditions, mysteries of life to global perspectives, we'll tell your stories. We amplify your voice and your vision. With every screen we light up, we connect, inform, and empower. It's more than a television. This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
To be a man is not to be hard, but to be whole. A true man feels, weeps, protects, dreams. He does not hide behind silence. He speaks with strength and softness. He carries responsibility, yes, but also joy. He provides, but he also hugs. He's not just a builder of homes, but a nurturer of hearts. A man is not less when he leans on others. He is more when he uplifts them. In truth, in tenderness, in integrity, that's where manhood truly begins. Beauty is not a mirror's gift. It lives deeper in how we listen, how we love, how we live. It's the kindness that lingers and the courage that doesn't quit. The world may sell perfection, but real beauty is flawed, fierce, and free. It's in stretch marks and smile lines, in stories and scars. When you see someone who glows, it's not their skin, it's their soul breaking through. That's beauty, raw, radiant, and real.
There are two types of kola nut produced in Nigeria: kola nitida, otherwise called gworo, and widely eaten in northern part of Nigeria. Kola acuminata, also referred to as Igbo kola, is of local origin and occupies an important position in social, religious, and sacred ceremonies in Igbo society. It is seen as a vital and sacred fruit in Igbo land and serves as the major instrument of prayers connecting the ancestors. It cements discussions and also the fundamental bedrock of philosophy and proverbs. It is a symbol of welcome, unity, and peace. If kola nut contains one cotyledon, it is regarded as dump kola nut and thrown away. Kola nut with 4 cotyledons represents the 4 Igbo market days: Eke, Orie, Afo, and Nkwo. If kola nut contains more than 6 cotyledons, it signifies blessings and wealth, and it is celebrated. There is also another type of Igbo kola nut called Ojugo, which is referred to as the king of Igbo kola. The reproductive organ of the kola nut is referred to as the tongue, and it is removed after prayers and thrown to the spirit of the ancestors.
Ibai. Ekele mu. Ojo kwami eji gondo. Ndo ana atoka. Onya na anaba nke nya no na agwo. Ibai adino. Ogologo ndo. Aruike. Oduma ibeji ne ndo anya. Na onye ngori ibeji ne ndo anya. Nelufuta muri ya. Imana na nsogbu ya olise bụ wanyị na-ekene Chukwu okike onye ogologo ndụ na ogologo anya na-ahụ udo na ọchịchị anyị na-ekene na-ekene maka tata na-ayọ maka echi maka na ọsọ maka ebe echi anya amara na ya dịka echi na echi anaghị agwụ agwụgwụ na ihe ya adịla anyị mma ndị be anya ọmụkwanye ihe ọzọ na anyị enye ndị ichie jipụtara anyị na-enwe nke
First Timothy 6 verse 10 reminds us, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. By craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows." The so-called instant wealth mentality, often described as the get-rich-quick syndrome, refers to the rapacious desire to acquire financial wealth through questionable or unauthorized means solely to satisfy interests or selfish ambitions. In former days, Nigerians prided themselves on the dignity of labor, hard work, humility, endurance, respect for elders, and perseverance, where values were deeply taught by parents and guardians. These virtues propelled many young people into apprenticeship, skill acquisition, and education with the hope of building a solid future. But today, the narrative is changing. With the advent of technology and the erosion of values, many youths have abandoned diligence and now chase wealth by any means. Over time, some parents even began forcing their daughters into marriages with wealthy men, as there's an Igbo adage that says, "Ogobuchi onye," meaning in-laws determine destiny, regardless of love or compatibility. Likewise, some parents urge their sons to make money like their mates without caring about the source. This cultural shift fractured society. Instead of rising through hard work, many young people now want to rise like the Iroko tree, tall, proud, but with little or no traces of foundational hard work. Some have indulged into money rituals, popularly known as ukite, cybercrime, popularly known as Yahoo, prostitution, vandalism, kidnapping, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and theft. The get-rich-quick mentality is not a Nigerian problem. It is a global issue. It spreads like wildfire. In pharmaceuticals, some produce fake or adulterated drugs, repackage expired medicines, or sell counterfeit drinks and foods. Others flood the market with harmful skincare products or inferior tires that burst on highways, claiming innocent lives, all in the name of profit.
Good afternoon and welcome to news across the country on Aneke TV. I'm Nancy Marianne. The headlines. President Tinubu urges National Assembly to approve state police amid rising insecurity. FCTA commences enforcement action on 1,095 property owners over outstanding land charges. Polytechnic Staff Union threatens nationwide strike over unpaid arrears. Court rules free basic education is a statutory and enforceable duty of federal and state governments. Education Academy criticizes federal government's reversal of mother tongue instruction policy. Anambra State government grants license to independent electricity distribution company. Details of the news now. President Bola Tinubu has asked the National Assembly to immediately review existing laws to allow states to establish their own police forces. The president said the rising wave of kidnapping, banditry and terrorism, especially in the northern region, has shown that the current centralized policy structure can no longer meet the country's security needs. He noted that the creation of state police is now a national imperative, adding that localized security architecture will improve intelligence gathering and help track criminal elements more effectively. Governors and several former leaders have long argued that state policing is essential for addressing community-level threats. The president also approved an increase in the strength of the army and police, including the recruitment of 20,000 additional police personnel. He directed the DSS to deploy trained forest guards and ordered the withdrawal and retraining of officers previously assigned to VIP protection. NYC camps have also been authorized as temporary training sites for new police recruits. The Federal Capital Territory Administration has begun enforcement against owners of 1,095 properties over failure to pay statutory land charges, including ground rent and C-of-O fees. The action follows several months of public notices and reminders that were ignored. The affected properties are located in Asokoro, Maitama, Gariki, Wuse, and other high-brow districts of the Federal Capital Territory. According to the FCTA, 835 owners defaulted in ground rent payments, while 260 failed to pay violation and land use conversion fees. With the final grace period expiring on November 25, the administration says enforcement will now include sealing of properties, repossession, and possible revocation of titles in line with the Land Use Act. Minister Yusun Wike has warned that the era of disregarding statutory obligations in the FCT is over. The Senior Staff Association of Nigeria Polytechnics has raised alarm over unpaid promotion arrears, salary reviews, and other outstanding entitlements owed to its members. The union said prolonged delays in releasing the new schemes and conditions of service have worsened workers' frustration. Speaking at the 78th General Executive Council meeting in Abuja, SSANIP National President Philip Ogusimpe faulted the non-conclusion of the 2010 agreement renegotiation and non-release of the 2023 needs assessment funds. He described the actions of the National Board for Technical Education in submitting a revised scheme without consultation as a breach of trust. Union leaders urged President Tinubu to intervene urgently, warning that continued neglect of welfare issues combined with worsening economic hardship could trigger nationwide industrial unrest. They also appealed to members to remain calm while dialogue continues. A federal high court in Lagos has ruled that the federal government, the 36 states and the FCT are legally obligated to provide free and compulsory basic education. The judgment was delivered by Justice Daniel Osiago in a suit filed by Femi Falana and Hawa Mustafa. The court held that Section 11, subsection 2 of the Universal Basic Education Act places a binding duty on all tiers of government to ensure access to primary and junior secondary education. Justice Osiaga ruled that failure to meet this responsibility constitutes a violation of statutory duties. The ruling reinforces long-standing concerns about inadequate funding and poor implementation of basic education policies and is expected to place renewed pressure on governments to prioritize education delivery. The Zamfara state government says it will not shut down schools despite recent abductions in parts of the country. The government insists that education must continue and that new security measures have been deployed across learning centers. Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Wadatal Madawaki, told reporters in Gusau that recent incidents in Kebbi and Niger states underscore the need for stronger protection rather than shutting down schools. He said the state remains committed to uninterrupted learning. Authorities say they are working with security agencies and community structures to improve surveillance and ensure the safety of students and staff in all public and private schools. Former Anambra State Governor Chris Ngige narrowly escaped an attack on his convoy along the Mbo-Nobi Road in Idemili North. The former governor was not in the convoy when armed men opened fire on the pilot vehicle. A statement by his former media aide, Fred Chukwulobe, said a police officer in the pilot car sustained gunshot injuries while his rifle and uniform were seized by the attackers who disguised in military and police uniforms. A woman filming the incident was fatally shot, while a shop owner who rushed out was also hit and is receiving treatment. The injured officer has undergone surgery and is stable, although the pilot vehicle was riddled with bullets. President Bola Tinubu has approved the Nigerian delegation to the Nigerian-U.S. Joint Working Group on Security Cooperation. The move follows agreements reached during recent high-level talks in Washington. National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribaudu will lead the theme, which includes ministers responsible for foreign affairs, defense, interior, and humanitarian services, as well as the Chief of Defense Staff and heads of intelligence and policing agencies. The Joint Working Group is expected to strengthen collaboration on counterterrorism, intelligence sharing, and defense support as Nigeria steps up efforts to address evolving security challenges. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has returned to Abuja following his evacuation from Guinea-Bissau after a military takeover. Jonathan was airlifted from Bissau after the junta announced it has seized control of the country. He had traveled as part of an EU, AU, ECOWAS, and West African Elders Forum observer mission monitoring the country's general elections. The evacuation was activated once security conditions deteriorated. Jonathan arrived safely at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, and diplomatic sources say regional bodies are closely monitoring the situation in Guinea-Bissau. The Lagos State government has appealed to the management of the International Trade Fair Complex to regularize unapproved buildings under the ongoing planning permits amnesty window. The program runs until December 31. Commissioner for Physical Planning, Dr. Oluyinka Olumide, said other federal agencies, including the NRC and FAAN, have already begun the process of compliance. He stressed that Lagos Planning and Development Law makes approval mandatory for all structures. The amnesty, the third under Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, offers a waiver on penal fees. The state government says the exercise is essential to achieving a safe, organized, and sustainable urban environment, and ones that enforcement will follow after the window closes. The Enugu state government has nullified the marriage between 15-year-old Precious Oyiga and 33-year-old Sopuluchukwu Odo after images of the illegal union went viral. Officials say the girl was forced into the marriage. Commissioner for Children and Gender Affairs Ngozi Eni said all parties, including the parents of the girl and groom, as well as the matchmaker, were arrested after they ignored an earlier invitation. During a protected interview, Precious confirmed she never consented and had never been to school. The ministry has placed the girl under protective custody and will oversee her rehabilitation and education. The case is now with the security agencies for full investigation and protection under the Child Rights Law. The General Officer commanding 82 Division Nigerian Army, Major General Lulermi Fadairo, has called for stronger community cooperation to support ongoing security operations in Abia and wider Southeast. He made appeal during a visit to Governor Alex Oti. Major General Fadairo said no criminal group can succeed against a united security architecture backed by community intelligence. He commended Governor Oti for his support and promised improved operational efficiency. The governor assured the Army of continued collaboration, stressing that security remains central to the state's development agenda. The GOC also serves as commander of the Southeast Joint Task Force, Operation Udoka. The Abia State government says it has strengthened security operations across the state ahead of the Yuletide season. The update followed the monthly Security Council meeting chaired by Governor Alex Oti. Special Advisor on Security, Commander MacDonald Oba, retired, said existing structures have been reinforced and security agencies placed on high alerts. He added that the state is responding to national security trends and residents should expect increased security presence at strategic points. He urged citizens to remain law-abiding and cooperate with security operatives to ensure safe and seamless operations during the festive period. The meeting also reviewed ongoing operations and adopted new measures for public safety. You are watching Aneke TV news across the country. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. And now a quick reminder of major developments in the news. President Tinubu urges National Assembly to approve state police amid rising insecurity. FCTA commences enforcement action on 1,095 property owners over outstanding land charges. Polytechnic Staff Union threatens nationwide strike over unpaid arrears. Courts rules free basic education is a statutory and enforceable duty of federal and state governments. And coming up shortly, Education Academy criticizes federal government's reversal of mother tongue instruction policy. Anambra State government grants license to independent electricity distribution company.
The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless.
It will take the bold mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose ox is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last blood.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices. Uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on The Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
Welcome back. The Katsina State Transport Authority has expanded its fleet with the launch of 14 new 18-seater buses fully purchased through its internally generated revenue. This brings to 33 the total number of new buses acquired since the start of the current administration. Governor Diko Rada, who unveiled the vehicles, commended the agency for its progress within a short period. He recalled that his administration had earlier donated 40 vehicles to boost the authority's operations. KTSTA General Manager Alhaji Haruna Musa said the new buses represent the third batch of IGR-funded acquisitions. He added that construction of a permanent terminus at Dandagoro is underway, alongside staff development programs that have sent 20 personnel for professional training. The Nigerian Academy of Education has condemned the federal government's decision to scrap the 2022 National Language Policy, describing the move as a disservice that could amount to permanent recolonization. The policy had recommended mother tongue as the language of instruction at early school levels. The Academy argued that the evidence from historic classroom projects shows that children taught in their native languages perform better academically, including in English later on. It insisted there is no scientific basis for the claim that indigenous language instruction contributes to failure rates. The body also warned that Nigeria's education system faces severe risks due to persistent school attacks. It noted that at least 92 school invasions and over 2,500 abductions have occurred since 2014 and urged stronger protection measures, improved intelligence, and trauma support for learners. The Anambra State Electricity Regulatory Commission has issued a one-year interim license to First Power Electricity Company Limited to distribute electricity in the state. The move follows the state's assumption of regulatory control enabled by the Electricity Act 2023. ASERC Chairman Professor Frank Okafor said the Commission will enforce strict compliance to ensure improved service delivery. He explained that the license is part of the state's drive to secure a stable power supply for industrial and residential growth. Officials of the EEDC and First Power described the license as a milestone under the decentralized electricity markets. The pledge to strengthen accountability and achieve widespread metering across the state by 2027. Nigeria's currency showed mild stability in early trading today, with the naira exchanging at about 1,444 naira 38 kobo to the dollar at the official markets. The rate reflects a slight recovery from Monday's high of 1,472 naira 26 kobo. At the power market, the exchange rate averaged 1,457 naira 11 kobo, maintaining the narrow gap between the official and street markets. Analysts tie the trend to recent liquidity management measures by the central bank. Market watchers advise caution as December approaches, noting that sustained stability will depend on further interventions from the monetary authorities and clarity on future liquidity injections. The Security and Exchange Commission has directed all capital market operators to declare their compliance status and ensure all instruments they manage are fully registered under the new Investments and Security Act 2025 by January next year. The SEC Director General, Emimatomi Agama, represented by the Commissioner Bola Ajimole, said the Act provides a stronger regulatory base designed to deepen and modernize Nigeria's capital markets. The reform responds to the rapid growth of digital trading and fintech platforms. The new act enhances investor protection and expands SEC's investigative powers to check unlawful practices, including Ponzi schemes. It also gives the Commission broader authority over both licensed entities and related third parties. A fresh controversy has hit the Nigeria Football Federation as former Super Falcons coach Randy Wardrum questioned the handling of over 1.4 billion naira reportedly received from FIFA for the team's 2023 World Cup preparations. He said the players suffered from inadequate planning despite the release of funds. Wardrum alleged that no proper training camp was organized and that players endured exhausting long-haul travel shortly before matches. He insisted that FIFA would have sponsored business class travel or deducted costs from Nigeria's World Cup earnings. He also criticized the limited number of the technical staff taken to the competition despite FIFA's approval for expanded team personnel. He said the team lacked key roles such as analysts and scouts, which affected overall performance. The Abia State government has commenced its maiden tertiary education sports festival with over 1,000 students from 16 institutions participating. The event aims to discover young talents and promote unity across campuses. Governor Alex Oti, represented by Deputy Governor Ike Chukwuemetu, said The festival underscores the administration's commitment to youth development. He noted that sports reinforce discipline, teamwork, and character. Commissioner for Tertiary Education, Professor Uche Eme Uche said 26 events are featured, handled by 400 officials. She announced that each institution received 500,000 naira to support participation, with plans to expand into aquatic sports and build Olympic standard facilities. The National Sports Commission has reaffirmed its plan to reposition sports as a major economic driver capable of generating jobs and attracting private investments. The strategy formed the core of discussions at the National Council on Sporting meeting in Calabar. NSC Director General Bukola Olapade said the renewed hope agenda views sports as an industry that supports tourism and youth enterprise. He highlighted reforms in athletes' welfare, infrastructure, upgrades, and commercializations. Stakeholders, including SWAM President Isaiah Benjamin, urged stronger focus on the business side of sports to avoid recurring setbacks. Cross River State reaffirmed its readiness to partner through investments in new stadia and revived competitions. Anita Okoye has shared a reflective message online announcing a period of personal renewal and self-focus. She said she is embracing a journey of alignment and intentional living following significant life changes. Her post comes 2 years after her divorce from Singapore Okoye, during which she secured a settlement and continued her academic pursuits. Finishing a master's degree in 2024, she has since promoted messages of self-worth and resilience. Anita's latest message highlights transformation and gratitude, telling followers she is choosing herself and stepping into a new phase guided by peace and wellness. Nollywood actress Eve Essing has celebrated colleague Rita Dominic as she marked her third wedding anniversary. Dominic earlier shared clips from the ceremony with her husband Fidelis Anosike. Eve Essing expressed admiration for Dominic's personality and craft, describing her as a role model and someone she deeply appreciates. She offered warm wishes to the couple for continued happiness. Rita Dominic and her husband married in 2022 after a widely publicized ceremony. The actress has previously addressed rumors around her relationship timeline, saying she married for compatibility rather than external expectations. And now to end news across the country, the main points. President Bola Tinubu has asked the National Assembly to urgently amend relevant laws to allow states that require them to establish state police as part of efforts to tackle rising kidnapping and terrorism across the country. The Federal High Court in Lagos has ruled that the federal government and all states are legally obligated to provide free, compulsory, and universal basic education in line with the Universal Basic Education Act. The Federal Capital Territory Administration has begun enforcement against 1,095 property owners in Maitama, Asokoro, and other highbrow districts for defaulting on statutory land charges. The Nigerian Academy of Education has condemned the federal government's decision to scrap the mother tongue policy for early education and is calling on the Minister of Education to reverse the action. That's news across the country at noon. For breaking news and eyewitness reports, call 0703 043 7110 or follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. On behalf of the producer, Chidima Asogwa, and the entire news team, I'm Nancy Marian, thanking you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.
The eagle's strength, clarity, and vision. Its ability to soar above storms signifies resilience, while its shaped sight represents as when the winds become strong, rising above obstacles rather than avoiding them. This teaches us that problems are not barriers, but stepping stones for those who dare. To live like an eagle is to stay focused, courageous, and disciplined. It is to see opportunities where others see only difficulties. The sky is not your limit, it is your launch pad.
From the tiniest cells to the farthest galaxies, life holds secrets we are only beginning to uncover. Why are we here? What connects us all? What unseen forces shape our destiny? Join Professor Jude Udenta as he explores the wonders, the questions, and the revelations that define existence. Mysteries of life, where every answer sparks a new discovery. Watch now on Aneke TV every Monday.
To be a man is not to be hard, but to be whole. A true man feels, weeps, protects, dreams. He does not hide behind silence. He speaks with strength and softness. He carries responsibility, yes, but also joy. He provides, but he also hugs. He's not just a builder of homes, but a nurturer of hearts. A man is not less when he leans on others. He is more when he uplifts them. In truth, in tenderness, in integrity, that's where manhood truly begins. Beauty is not a mirror's gift. It lives deeper in how we listen, how we love, how we live. It's the kindness that lingers and the courage that doesn't quit. The world may sell perfection, but real beauty is flawed, fierce, and free. It's in stretch marks and smile lines, in stories and scars. When you see someone who glows, it's not their skin, it's their soul breaking through. That's beauty, raw, radiant, and real.
There are two types of kola nut produced in Nigeria: kola nitida, otherwise called gworo, and widely eaten in northern part of Nigeria. Kola acuminata, also referred to as Igbo kola, is of local origin and occupies an important position in social, religious, and sacred ceremonies in Igbo society. It is seen as a vital and sacred fruit in Igbo land and serves as the major instrument of prayers connecting the ancestors. It cements discussions and also the fundamental bedrock of philosophy and proverbs. It is a symbol of welcome, unity, and peace. If kola nut contains one cotyledon, it is regarded as dump kola nut and thrown away. Kola nut with 4 cotyledons represents the 4 Igbo market days: Eke, Orie, Afo, and Nkwo. If kola nut contains more than 6 cotyledons, it signifies blessings and wealth, and it is celebrated. There is also another type of Igbo kola nut called Ojugo, which is referred to as the king of Igbo kola. The reproductive organ of the kola nut is referred to as the tongue, and it is removed after prayers and thrown to the spirit of the ancestors.
Ibai. Ekele m. Ọjụ kwado ihe eji agọ ndụ. Ndụ a na-atọka. onye anabara nke ya na ụlọ agwọ ibe anyị adịnọ ogologo ndụ arụ ike na ọdụmma ibe eji ene ndụ anya na onye nwere ibe eji ene ndụ anya na ịrụfụta nwụrụ ya ị mara na nsogbu rere ya olise bụ anyị na-ekele gị Chukwu okike onye ogologo ndụ na ogologo anya na-ahụ ndụ n'ọchịchị anyị na-ekele gị na-ekele maka tata na-ayọ maka echi maka na ọsọ maka eme echi anya ma mara na ya dịka echi na echi anaghị agwụ agwụgwụ na ihe ya adịrị anyị mma ndị be anya onwekwana ihe ọzọ na anyị enye ndị ichie dipụtara anyị na-ere nke
First Timothy 6 verse 10 reminds us, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. By craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows. The so-called instant wealth mentality, often described as the get-rich-quick syndrome, refers to the rapacious desire to acquire financial wealth through questionable or unauthorized means solely to satisfy interests or selfish ambitions. In former days, Nigerians prided themselves on the dignity of labor, hard work, humility, endurance, respect for elders, and perseverance, where values were deeply taught by parents and guardians. These virtues propelled many young people into apprenticeship, skill acquisition, and education with the hope of building a solid future. But today, the narrative is changing. With the advent of technology and the erosion of values, many youths have abandoned diligence and now chase wealth by any means. Over time, some parents even began forcing their daughters into marriages with wealthy men, as there's an Igbo adage that says, "Ogobuchi onye," meaning in-laws determine destiny, regardless of love or compatibility. Likewise, some parents urge their sons to make money like their mates without caring about the source. This cultural shift fractured society. Instead of rising through hard work, many young people now want to rise like the Iroko tree, tall, proud, but with little or no traces of foundational hard work. Some have indulged into money rituals, popularly known as Okite, cybercrime, popularly known as Yahoo, prostitution, vandalism, kidnapping, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and theft. The get-rich-quick mentality is not a Nigerian problem. It is a global issue. It spreads like wildfire. In pharmaceuticals, some produce fake or adulterated drugs, repackage expired medicines, or sell counterfeit drinks and foods. Others flood the market with harmful skincare products or inferior tires that burst on highways, claiming innocent lives, all in the name of profit. In public service, corruption thrives. Officials embezzle humongous funds, collect bribes, and divert resources meant for development. Some engineers cut corners by using substandard materials to build roads that collapse within months. Certain nurses exchange babies for money, while baby factories exploit young pregnant girls. Some native doctors encourage blood money rituals, while prosperity-preaching pastors promise instant success without labor, even blessing fraudsters and urging them to pay tithes. But is this truly the right way to make money? Must everyone be rich and influential at all costs? Some Enugu residents who spoke with Aneke TV lamented the moral collapse.
In recent time, we have seen a deviation from hard work and the entrenchment of laziness among the youths and the upcoming ones. Because you now see a situation where people don't no longer take patience in hard work. Like not you want to reap when we did not sow, or you want to sow today, and you know that in the process of planting you have to sow, you have to wait. There's a gestation period, and then before you talk of harvesting. But these days the young ones want to sow today and then reap the next day. That is get rich quick sin.
They want to build because when they see their mates and when they see their mates driving big cars, they want to belong. Some parents are also the cause, because the way they talk to their children, they compare their children to the children of their neighbors or their co-wives. That's one of the things to me.
Some of the parents contribute to this get rich quick syndrome, because when a parent begin to compare the child with other people, you are telling your child, have you not seen Mr. A, how he's doing well, buying houses for the parents, doing this and doing that? That child will feel bad, or we want to go to any length in impressing you, to show that, okay, you know, to make you proud. That is what some of them, you get them, they say, I want to make my parents proud, because the parents refuse to be proud of them, because they have not met up with the other people they are comparing them with. So you don't compare your child with anybody.
They noted that society has grown cold, not just cold, but frozen. The poor are despised, mocked, and branded as cursed, while the wealthy are exalted regardless of how they earned their wealth. This disturbing trend calls for sober reflection. It is time to pause, reconsider, and retrace our steps for the sake of ourselves, our families, and our nation. As the proverb warns, he who knows how to pound should pound on a mortar, but he who doesn't know how to pound should pound on the floor. Let's always reflect on the words of the gospel preacher in Ecclesiastes 1, verse 2, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Chidimi Kemedem, Aneke TV.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, 040, and a beautiful morning to everyone watching. It's another beautiful day, and it's another edition of Sunrise on Aneke TV, where every sunrise begins with delightfulness, bringing you daily dose of cheer and joy. I am Deborah Wakoba, coming to you live from our studio here in vibrant Enugu, and thank God it is Friday, Mr. Ochi.
We can't wait to the weekend.
Yes, the weekend is already here. Yes.
Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God.
Yes. And good morning to you, our global audience. I'm Uche Osai. Wherever you are, at home, in your office, or in traffic, or even making breakfast at home, thank you for letting us into your space this beautiful morning. As always, we're here to refresh, inform, and motivate.
Yes, it's Friday, like I said, Friday, 28 November 2025. And of course, it's another edition of Sunrise here on Aneke TV. So we've got everything you need this morning, starting from the latest news to the weather reports and that special or unique sunrise vibe. That would help us begin today. And we've got every other stuff lined up for you here today.
So, grab that cup of coffee or tea. Relax, enjoy the ride, because the sunrise is here.
Yes, and so starting up today, we'll be kicking things off with our quote of the day, with words that are thoughtful, words that are inspiring, words that help us or offer insight to whatever we do today, and also to help us stay motivated, stay focused, and also keep us throughout the rest of the day.
Then it's straight into the day's top headlines. All the key news updates that you need to be informed will be shared hot and very crispy.
Yes, exactly. And after that, we'll also be giving you our weather report for today, covering cities across the southeast, so you know what to expect before you head out, or if you've headed out already, is to help you stay well throughout the rest of the day.
And later we'll bring you fun global updates, news, holidays, celebration, key observers to lift your spirits and leave you smiling.
All right, now we'll move over to our morning show inspiration segment. Now, our morning show inspiration segment is coming from a businessman, Aristotle Onassis, and in his quote, he said, "The secret of business is to know something that nobody else knows." I'm going to take that again, coming from a businessman, Aristotle Onassis. In his quote, he said, "The secret of business is to know something that nobody else knows." Now, this quote is reminding us that in today's fast-moving world, knowledge is power, but unique knowledge is superpower. Now, Narcissus is telling us that the people who rise, innovate, and excel in business are those who look beyond the ordinary. Now, those who discover opportunities that others cannot see. And now it is about thinking differently. It is about spotting hidden needs. It's about having fresh ideas and bringing something new to the table. Now, you don't necessarily have to do what everybody is doing. Now, you can look beyond or far beyond what somebody's doing and bring in new ideas, make your own business in a creative way. Now, if someone is baking, if it's a baker, and there are lots of pastries around the world, and now in a way you can package that your pastry now that sells more than what other people are doing. Now it's talking about looking at things differently and not the usual route or the usual way others do their own thing. Now with this quote coming from Aristotle, Narcissus is actually telling us that we should think outside the box. Yes, we should think outside the box, and we should think of another or a creative idea. We should think about creative ideas. We should think differently, in a different style, how we package our stuffs, how we present it, how we display it, and what makes you different from the other person. Now this is what Aristotle's quote is also trying to tell us. And because in business, that the real winners are not just those who work hard, but those who work smart and see the future and also see things beyond other people, and then try and do it differently before other people catch on. And Mr. Uche, I would like to know your thoughts on this quote.
All right. This quote in itself is to encourage entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
But most importantly, just like the quote says, the secret of business is to know something that nobody else knows. You need to be armed with that secret. And I think that's why Dangote, the richest man in Africa, said that the most dangerous thing for an entrepreneur to do is to actually go into a business that he does not have full understanding with.
Okay.
Yes, so in entirety, it's all about knowledge. It's about having information, key information that sets you apart from every other person.
Yeah.
Because it's the knowledge, that's the secret that Aristotle is talking about. That's what will separate you from your competitors, because you know something that they do not know. You understand your terrain very well. And then in this very quote, if I go through the line or eyes of Aliko Dangote to see this quote, he advocates that for every successful business person, you have to be disciplined. You have to be well informed for you to be able to grow, and for you to be able to take opportunities that are bound. If not, that there's this danger of entering an unfamiliar territory or ground when you don't have adequate information, when you don't know, like Aristotle put it, something that nobody else knows. And like you rightly pointed out, it may be, one thing we'll see in this climate is everybody is trying to look at the other person. You want to do what your neighbor in the market is doing. When Mr. A goes into pure water business, everybody, rushes into pure water business. Next is, let's say, gas station that is thriving. Everybody start moving into gas station without having an in-depth knowledge of what is going on.
Actually.
Yes, you see people building, people going into hotel business, building hotels. Next thing, everybody starts moving into the business without having in-depth knowledge. At the end of the day, you see this business, collapsing, and you ask yourself why. The reason is because they do not have that knowledge that nobody else has, that secret that sets you apart from every other person. They do not have it. You're copying from Mr. A because Mr. B is in the same line with you, and then you want to do what they are doing. He has moved into pure water business, and you feel that if you don't go into pure water business, that means you are not successful. You're looking at, and you don't have the knowledge, the know-how. Perhaps when you were sleeping, this man, after the closure of work or business, has gone further to study about the business, the pure water business, maybe the hotel business, before venturing into it. And then when you are looking at him, you want to do the same thing. You end up being a total failure because you do not have that secret, the secret that Aristotle is talking about. He says the secret of business is to know something that nobody else knows. And that's what really sets you apart from the competition in the market, because you have something that they don't have. So you don't just walk into a business blindly, because other people are doing it without that key understanding. So first of all, when you're going into business, first, what do you do first? With the knowledge, you are well informed, something that sets you apart from your competition. You begin to study the terrain. why do I site my business in so place? Why do I relocate from Onitsha to Nsukka? You understand? And somebody that has done his analysis may realize that, okay, my business will thrive because it's for students, and you have a large student population in Enugu and Nsukka, so let me move my branch to this place. And then somebody that doesn't have that knowledge who may, okay, this man has opened a branch in Enugu, in Nsukka, okay, let me go to Abakaliki and open a branch, so that you have a branch as well. But you do not have the information because he's opening, because there's a student population to be served in Enugu. That's why he expanded to Enugu. But you blindly go to Abakaliki and you see yourself not doing well, and then you begin to ask questions. You do not have that secret that Aristotle talks about, which is in-depth knowledge about what is going on. And that reminds me of the story of, Kodak, the era of camera, where they were, when they were doing print cameras. Kodak was a giant in the business of cameras, digital prints then. And they were the first to manufacture digital camera, actually. But they had little knowledge about the future of digital camera. They just stayed on their key business, thinking, being content with, the revenue that was coming in from the prints then. They didn't study in-depthly. And then when the innovations came, what happened? Because in their industry, they lacked that key knowledge, that key secret. So with innovation, they were knocked off their perch. And we now saw what we are witnessing now, the digital camera, the era of digital camera. Nobody needed to go to the lab to be able to watch their photographs again. And they are knocked off. So it's quite important wherever you are, even if in the market, even if in any business, before you venture into any business, think critically, research, have in-depth knowledge of what you're going into. You shouldn't go into business because Mr. Emmanuel has gone into business, then you want to go into that same business. No, that's why people fail in business. But when you have key information, you see yourself succeeding in that very business.
All right, thank you very much for that. Well, okay, this quote coming from Aristotle is actually trying to encourage us, whether it's the entrepreneur, a student, a market person, or a business monger, that you should keep learning, you should stay curious, you should develop a unique skill or insights, make something different, bring out something that is catchy and different from what other people are bringing out. And also is also telling us that we should never stop exploring, never stop trying new things. That whatever you want to, make it unique, make it in a way people would want to see it and want to, let's say they want to patronize you because this thing is different from what they've been seeing so far. Now they are more interested. In that way, you're bringing them close, you're bringing them, you're enticing them with your designs, with your packaging, with every other thing. So that's what this quote from Aristotle that says the secret of business is to know something that nobody else's know. I'm taking that again. The secret of business is to know something that nobody else's know. And that's what Aristotle is advising us today, or is encouraging us today. So as we step into our day today, let us ask ourselves, what do I know that is different from what people know? Let us also ask ourselves, try and discover new things. Let us try and discover a different approach, like just bringing content creators for an instance. Now you can see they have their own uniqueness. Now they have what they say, or they have what they do that brings them out to the market. Now this quote by Aristotle today is encouraging us that we should try something different. Just like we always say, Sunrise is a platform where we try something new, where we learn every day, when we try or when we simply stay present in whatever we do, or we try and develop new ideas. That is what Aristotle's quote is trying to tell us today. And also do not forget that each new sunrise is an opportunity for us to grow, for us to learn something new, or try something different, or simply be more present in whatever we do. And also let us know what this quote means to you. You can drop your thoughts or follow us across Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, YouTube, all at Aneke TV, or you can call our phone number 07030437110. We'll be right back after the break.
The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless.
It will take the broad mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose heart is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last blood.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on the insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
Still watching Sunrise on Aneke TV. Now we'll be taking a look at the weather report today in the southeast. I'll be starting off with Oka. Good morning, Oka. Oka wakes up today wearing a blanket of soft clouds, calm, cool, and slightly moody. But don't get too comfortable. By mid-morning, the sky might decide to flex its muscles with some quick thunderstorms. So yes, your umbrella isn't for decoration today. As we move into the afternoon, the city settles nicely into warm, cloudy weather, climbing up to around 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, perfect for quick errands or chilled lunch break. And the evening comes with gentle clouds and a lovely drop in temperature.
And good morning, Coast City. Over to Enugu. Enugu begins the day under a blanket of soft clouds, cool and collected around 25 degrees Celsius. By noon, our dear Coast City decides to heat up. Expect hazy sunshine, and I mean hazy with confidence. Temperatures soar towards 33 to 35 degrees Celsius in the early afternoon. If your fan is rechargeable, today is its day to shine. By evening, everything cools back down to the highest 20s, giving the city a much-needed breather.
And in Abakaliki starts the day in full chill mode. Cloudy skies, soft breeze, and temperatures in the mid-20s. It's the kind of morning that tempts you to eat hot akara and pap by the roadside. But then, by afternoon, the temperature rises steadily, hitting the 33 to 34 degrees Celsius mark, even though the clouds don't really go away. It's warm, it's bright, but the sun is playing hide and seek. Evening cools back into the high 20s, making it a perfect time for a relaxed walk or outdoor chat.
And over to Owerri. Owerri wakes up cloudy and comfortable. Temperature sits around 24 to 26 degrees Celsius. From late morning to midday, the city warms up to a bright 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. But hold your hearts. Late afternoon may bring thunderstorms. By evening, things calm down beautifully again, giving you a cool finish to your day.
And lastly, in Umuahia, Umuahia starts the day cloudy and calm, just like its sister cities. Soft, sweet temperatures in the mid-20s. By midday, we climb into the low 30s, and just when you think the day will stay predictable, the afternoon might throw in some thunderstorms, the kind that arrives uninvited. But by evening, everything settles into cool, cloudy comfort, perfect for relaxation.
So, wherever you are in the southeast today, stay safe, stay cool, dress light. But do remember that rain or shine, we've got you covered. And that's your weather report today on Sunrise on Aneke TV. We'll take a short break and we'll be back with more updates. The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless.
It will take the broad mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose heart is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last blood.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on the Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
On Aneke TV. Now we'll be taking a quick look at major stories today in the newspaper, starting from The Nation, Punch, Vanguard, and The Guardian newspaper. Now on the Nation headline today, we have Nigeria-US joint working group to hold security talks. And on the Punch headline, we have Safe Schools protect stores in 30 states as abduction rise. And still on the Punch, it says VIPs move to engage NSCDC after 11,000 policemen recall. And then on the Vanguard headline, it says Vanguard bandits kidnapped pregnant woman, 30 others in Niger, FCT. And still on the Vanguard headline, Guinea-Bissau, Jonathan returns as AU, ECOWAS decry coup. And lastly, on the Guardian headline, it says armed attacks intensify as Tinubu OK's US-Nigeria security plan. So today's paper will be starting from the Punch headline that says Safe Schools project stalls in 30 states as abduction rise. A new report reveals that the Safe Schools initiative created to protect pupils from attacks has been stalled in 30 states. While the aim was to provide fencing, security personnel, alarms, and safer infrastructure, progress has slowed down, even as student abduction continues to rise in several regions. Now, education experts are urging the government to revive the project urgently to safeguard millions of school children. Now, this is a big wake-up news. Call for authorities, safety in schools must remain a top priority. Mr. Oucha, I'd like to know your take on this headline that says Safe Schools project stalls in 30 states as abduction rise.
Well, it's what it is in Nigeria these days. Everything is running off insecurity, and I can tell you that everything, these insecurities that we're witnessing begin to trump up a lot of questions and issues. And when you look at this headline this morning, it begins to tell you that we as a nation will fail to take into account or take actions that would necessitate that we do not witness the kind of situations that we are witnessing in Nigeria at the moment. In Nigeria, it's only when things happen, we'll begin to see plans, things that we could have done better, which is why we always talk about that Nigeria has no issue with policy formulations, but is about implementation and seeing through such policies that is the issue in Nigeria. You know, we argue that Nigerians are one of the brightest in the world. Yeah. And when it comes to, you know, policy formulations, you will see that we have good policies that are quite competitive anywhere, quite implementable, that would best any policies formulation that you have across the globe. But why is it that we find difficult to apply or implement such policies? You know, when you look at this headline now talking about the Safe School initiative that we are talking about, we are saying that over 30 states have failed to implement this initiative. And then you ask yourself, what would have been if we implemented this Safe School initiative? Would the bandits have a field day in Marga? Would they have a field day in Papari where 24 kids have been kidnapped, where over 300 persons have been kidnapped as well? Look at the attack in St. Mary's Catholic School, right? Would that have happened? We will now end up, you know, having a tete-a-tete with bandits. We can't engage the bandits kinetically because we are afraid that they will use our children as shield in the forest where they are. But if we had implemented this initiative, this wouldn't have been the case. And why is it that retrospectively we begin to look at the things that ought to be the failures of leadership? I may say, when you remember that Chinua Achebe in his book, The Trouble with Nigeria, he did say that the trouble with Nigeria is clearly the issue of leadership. And yes, the issue of leadership will be over-mentioned with the situations that we are witnessing in Nigeria. The leaders, yes, quite unfortunately, but we have to say these things. Yeah, because when you talk about the electing people into position of authority, you are electing them to be your thinking boss. And beyond being the thinking boss, to implement policies that will see that people live comfortably, well secure in the land. While I say this is not to undermine the initiative of the presidency or this government, you may recall that the insecurity that we are witnessing in Nigeria, you know, predates this administration. And when you look at this initiative, this is a very good initiative that came up as a 2014. immediately after the kidnap of Chibok girls. And we had a very good policy like this that will have ensured that more children are in school, studying safe and sound. But here in 2025, we are seeing attack on schools because this implementation, this initiative were not carried out to the letter. Beyond the leaders, when we have this policy formulation, why I say the box down to the leaders, because it is their responsibility to check agencies of government that will have implemented this initiative after drafting. Then the next phase is implementation, and there is a commission, there is an agency that will be saddled with implementing this very initiative. And you quite recall that when the general who is in charge of the command center of this initiative, General Ochaja, when interviewed, you see him soliciting for more funds to be made available for them to be able to have the adequate equipment, gadgets needed for the monitoring. And that tells you that even the remaining states where we see that the initiative took off, or places like Enugu State that has mapped out project sites, you will see that nothing is being done in those places. And where it is being implemented, it is being implemented haphazardly. And that will tell you why we are having this rise of attacks, why the bandits, the terrorists are having field day with our school and school children is quite unacceptable in these times. This time for, like we always say, for the government to go back and take stock. While I do not call for, reprimand of people who have failed, but we as a nation, it's time for us to retrospectively question ourselves, our failures in carrying out, the policies, the commissioned government policy of government that will see that situations, security challenges like this will not happen. In other clients, when you have situations like this, there are questions will be asked. People who have failed in their responsibility will be called to account. It becomes even more worrisome when we see that situation where we are witnessing that the military were cut off from a school before an attack happened, and this is coming from the governor of the state. And till this moment, I'm waiting to hear that an commission of inquiry has been instituted to really, have an inquest into what really transpired. Who put the soldiers all from the spot before this attack happened? These are the questions that are coming up that needs answer. Then look at very good policies with the initial takeoff grant of pledge of $10 million to see that this policy is implemented. And in 2025, we are citing, obvious challenges that beyond certain states that have provided, places for this command and control center for this government safe school initiative, that across the length of the country, nothing is being done about it. It's quite unfortunate. But at this point in time, I will call for the video where the Senate are deliberating. For me, it's as if that the Senate are beginning to wake up to their responsibility. I think we are beginning to see that the issue concerning insecurity is being argued at the chambers. They are beginning to raise questions and begin to call into account. Yes. When we watch that video now, you will see, yes, they are beginning to deliberate on the issue of insecurity in our nation. And that is quite encouraging that our legislators are beginning to talk about it. Let's pause a moment and listen.
And I represent Abia South. The writer, George Orwell, made a very profound statement, which I will quote. He says that in times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. We are being told every day to be patriotic. We are being told here that we shouldn't say anything against. We are being told that, oh, you shouldn't talk about the past. You should focus on the present. Yet, on this floor, rather than focus on what we're supposed to talk about,
quite encouraging when we see our senators begin to raise concern, you know, going beyond party lines to begin to talk about the issue of insecurity in Nigeria. And like Wole is saying, when you look at this very initiative, I for one, you know, I'm not excited at all that we'll have a very good policy like this that will have ensured that children are safe in their learning environment, where there will be a coordinated, you know, monitoring of the goings on around this safe school initiative. You know, look at the number of children that will have benefited, and the government will have, you know, expanded energy and resources, you know, to, you know, coalesce with the interact with the bandits to see that these children are brought back to safely to their parents. This is where we have to, you know, call on government to see that this initiative like this are well carried out across the length and breadth. This is an agreement that, you know, both the federal and the subnationals are involved in pulling resources together to see that this initiative, you know, is brought to total implementation. When you check the heightened insecurity that this nation have witnessed, ranging from 2014 to date, you believe that by this period, that this project, even if it is not being implemented fully, at least we will have seen 80 to 90% implementation of the policy, where 144.8 billion has been allotted to see this project through from 2023 to 2026. And we are still talking about most of these states, because 30 is a huge number out of 36 states in Nigeria are doing nothing about it, and it's quite unfortunate. Our leaders need to take that note, and something has to be done, because people in this time need to be assured that when they go to school, they have to be safe. And if they are safe, areas that have been mapped out for total monitoring so that the people will be safe in their school, that will be encouraged. When you take account into what's been happening, you know, when you go around about, see what the attack in the school, see the attack in a church as well, move the length and breadth of the nation. We are being even told that pregnant women, nursing mothers are being taken hostage as well. So when you have good measures like this that will see to it that things, you know, and things like this won't happen at all and is not implemented, you will be well eyed that nobody is implementing them. But like I did say, this is where government has to do an inquest and find out why has this not been implemented at least up to 80%. It's quite unfortunate that we have good policies, but implementation becomes a problem. Is it the issue of bottlenecks, which is always the case in Nigeria? There are issues where you do not observe those bottlenecks. You go ahead and see to it that such policies are well implemented, because it will be for the good and for the better interest of the Nigerian citizens. And at this point in time, I hope that the presidency is listening, that they will begin to launch a quest into why this is not being implemented across the states, because that will have saved the government a lot of energy, a lot of resources. You know, this time around, we're now being told that the forests around the Kebbi, Kogi areas, you know, Niger State as well, are being monitored, total condoning. You can imagine the resources that have been expanded for 24-hour surveillance and monitoring of these vast forests, where these bandits and terrorists, you know, hibernate to carry out their nefarious activities. You know, good policies will have saved the country of such, you know, huge resources that will be expanded in such operations. And perhaps it's time for us to go a lot deeper beyond these policies and bring in other measures that will see that learning environments are safer. There is safe learning environment, especially for our children, for the girl child, especially in the most ravaged part of this nation, northern Nigeria, where the teenage girls are now being preyed upon by these bandits. One cannot overemphasize the need for government to holistically carry out initiatives like this and implement them, so that we won't begin to, you know, have to talk about issues like this. If this were implemented, I can tell you that those 24 children may not have been kidnapped. The school children at St. Mary's Catholic School would have been safe. So, Debbie, at this point in time, it irks me that we'll have good initiative like this and it's never implemented to the letter.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now we're moving over to our next paper, still on the Punch headline that says VIPs move to engage NSCDC after 11,000 policemen recall. Now, the government under Bola Ahmed Tinubu has ordered that all police officers assigned to VIP security to be withdrawn and redeployed report to general policing duties. In total, about 11,566 police officers have been recalled from VIP protection duties. And under the new directive, VIPs who still require security protection must now apply to Nigeria's Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC) instead of relying on the police. Now, for VIPs and high-profile individuals, this means shifting from police escort to NSCDC. According to Punch, many VIPs have begun to engage or apply to the NSCDC for security escorts in the wake of police recall. Mr. Ocha, I'd like to know your take on this.
All right. When you look at the headline, you know, this emanates from the president's directive that the police officers attached to VIPs be withdrawn. The target is about 100,000 police officers who are assigned protective duties of VIPs should be withdrawn, retrained, you know, debriefed and retrained, and then be pushed over to the front line to be able to ease the challenges of manpower that we are witnessing with the overwhelming insecurities that we are witnessing across the length and breadth of Nigeria. You know, this period we've all been talking about the insecurity, the heightened insecurity in Nigeria at a point when the international communities are beginning to raise concern about the security situation, where we are beginning to dialogue on how to bring this to the barest minimum. We now witnessed a heightened, you know, cases of insurgent attacks, bandits, kidnapping, and the rest of it. Then, on that ground, you will see that police are giving, the IG of police is informing Nigerians that over 11,000 policemen have been withdrawn and they've returned for training. And in that, with that in view, you know, the elites or the VIPs, you know, in the situation in Nigeria would have to, you know, look for other means for them to be secure. But rather than the Nigerian civil defense, you know, being equally overwhelmed with protective duties, I for one, I think that the VIPs should rather go look for private enterprises, private security organizations, to contract them and pay them for their own protection, so that we'll have enough manpower to police the insecurity situation that we're having in Nigeria. With the civil defense now being overwhelmed with the request of the VIPs to offer them protective custody, you will see that the civil defense will now begin to, you know, suffer the issue of manpower as well, like the police witness with the police. But if they have their manpower as well to help the police in combating crimes, you will see that that will help in the issue of combating the insurgency, the terrorism activities, you know, school security safety challenges that we are facing. So for me, it will be more, you know, encouraged that the VIPs, the elites who needs this protection from the police, from the civil defense, would rather look for private security firms like Tantita and the rest of them to offer them, you know, protection that they need. But, you know, if I'm to be sarcastic, if they had done something about security in Nigeria, they won't be running from pillar to post now, looking for security now to guide them in a nation that most of them have failed to do the right thing, that we have seen that we are not facing this situation. In as much as, you know, we're not laying blame to anybody in particular, and our elite, our leaders, and the VIPs, they deserve, yes, they deserve that protection. But I think there's time with the experience that of what is happening in Nigeria, where we say Nigeria is under-policed. You know, when you take into account the number of policemen that we have in Nigeria, as against over 230 million Nigerians, we categorize that we are under-policed. So we need all resources in terms of policing that can be made available for the safety of the generality of Nigerians, especially given the spike of attacks on school and school children. You know, this time around, I would think that equally from the directive of the Security Council, that the civil defense equally should be focused on combating crime and then the insurgency, terrorism as well, rather than, you know, being redeployed for VIP protection. And for that, I would say no to that. Rather, let private firms be assigned such protective custody and they pay for it. You understand? Because, you know, the president has given directive that the police should recruit more men. For now, he has said they should train at least 20,000, which will be scaled up to 50. And the same mandate has been given to the army as well to, you know, recruit more men into their fold to show up the manpower that is needed to combat insecurity in Nigeria. And I, for one, would think that the civil defense at this point in time should be saddled with enough responsibility in terms of combating insecurity in Nigeria, and should equally, you know, be saddled with protection duties. So, in that regard, we are talking about recruiting more men. You see that what we have is not enough. So, therefore, it's time for the myriads of security firms that we have in Nigeria to thrive. You know, and then against that background, I'm beginning to hear, whistling and mooting in the National Assembly, where people are beginning to think that it's now time to legislate for, you know, for every Nigerian, for the right to bear arms in Nigeria, so as everybody can protect themselves, given the situation that we've witnessed. And, you know, a lot of people argue in favor of that. Yeah. And if that's the case, I do not think that the elite or the VIP will be needing the services of the Nigerian civil defense. That way you can, you know, mobilize your own, you know, private security, private army. But what is most important here is that the government-owned security forces should be used for the common good of the generality of Nigerians, because when you go, like we always point out, across the length and breadth of this nation, traverse to the east, to the west, to the north, cases of insecurity. The eastern Nigeria is witnessing the issue of kidnapping. When you go to the west again, you will see issues in the forest as well. People do not really go to farms. The Amatokun that you have there, you've had the governors coming up recently to call for state policing. So there is issue of insecurity, and this stems from the fact that Nigeria is underpoliced, that they do not have the adequate manpower, you know, to check the level of crimes, the level of security challenges that we are facing. And like we always say, we expect that the government would have increased this manpower, being that Nigeria, the predominant number of our population are youths, you know, who are in their prime, who can work and who can be engaged and absorbed into the army. You do remember that, yes, this is where we were calling on the armed forces and the police, you know, to ensure that their recruitment are transparent, and it doesn't need to be on who man no man basis, or who do you know, what's your surname. They should recruit enough, mobilize enough, because we'll have the youth, you know, population that can be absorbed into our security forces to help combat the level of insecurity that we are having in Nigeria. So I, for one, I am not, you know, excited to see that headline that they are beginning to run to the Nigerian civil defense, you know, to get their own security, this protection. I think that there should be a legislation for individuals, you know, to leave protection duty to, you know, myriads of security agencies that we have around, and that in itself will equally create additional employment, and will make these security agencies viable as well, so that our security forces will concentrate on their core duties, which is to ensure the protection of life and property of Nigerians, rather than protecting certain individuals. Until we've had adequate manpower enough to see that Nigeria is well policed, then we may have surplus to begin to assign to the VIPs as well. But given what we are witnessing in Nigeria, I think it's a no-no for us to assign the generality of the security forces who have, you know, into protection custody. That should not be allowed in this time.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now moving over to our next paper, coming from the Vanguard headline that says, Guinea-Bissau, Jonathan returns as AU, ECOWAS declared coup, and this is coming from the Vanguard headline. On November 26, soldiers in Guinea-Bissau seized bars, suspending the electoral process and detaining the sitting president and senior political figures. The military installed Hota Entam, previously head of the presidential guard, as interim transitional head of state for 1 year. However, the abrupt military takeover disrupted the process before official elections results could be announced, and former President Goodluck Jonathan was in Guinea-Bissau as head of the West African Elders Forum observation mission where the coup occurred. After the takeover, Nigeria's House of Representatives urged the federal government to ensure his safety and immediate evacuation. Jonathan has since been safely airlifted back to Abuja aboard a special flight with members of his delegation.
You remember yesterday I did tell you that he would definitely return, that nothing is going to happen to him. Yes, and we're happy that he has returned to Nigeria. You know, he was in Guinea-Bissau on official duty, being the head or the leader of the delegation of African Elders Forum that went to monitor the election in Guinea-Bissau, and this coup now happened. But, you know, against the worries of the generality of Nigerians, a lot of his well-wishers and fans who were worried that he's been caught up in the West African country. But yes, they did give that assurance that I know that he will return hale and hearty, that nothing will happen to him. And we're excited that this morning we are being informed that he has returned to the country hale and hearty, being lifted into the country. But it's quite unfortunate for the people of Guinea-Bissau, where we've witnessed another coup in that country. Remember that this is a country that has witnessed 4 successive coups, you know, since their independence, not mentioning the ones that have failed over time. So it's been a country, you know, that has experienced myriads of coup attempts, and then the successful ones. But what is more worrisome, that this one is coming at the eve of election, you know, where we are waiting for results to be announced. Though we keep talking to politicians that they should be, you know, very civil in this game, that their utterances could trigger a lot of things in the nation. If you can remember, you know what Nigeria witnessed in 2015, and every election cycle we have this security situation, you know, emanating from the utterances of politicians, which is why we've seen elders like the former head of state, Abdul Salami Abubakar, you know, leading a peace initiative, peace accord, where we'll get our politicians in Nigeria to sign an accord before the election. But the potency of those peace treaties that are signed is what I do not know, as you continue to see that even in Guinea-Bissau, despite the fact that these warring factions, you know, the two opposing leaders in that very election, talking about the sitting president Omaro Embalo and the top contender Fernando Diaz, you know, have come out to say that whatever the outcome of the results, that they will abide by it. But it's quite, you know, worrisome that while we are waiting for that announcement that they submitted themselves to, that the military have come out to now, you know, strike and remove the democratic process in that state. And it's quite unfortunate, because we've been clamoring that there should be an end to military rule in Africa. But you would acknowledge that this has become a trend in Africa these days, especially when you move through the Sahel states to this moment, where we're witnessing, you know, military takeover of governments in African country. I don't know why this has become a trend in Africa of late, but we're hearing from the ECOWAS and AU, you know, calling on the military juntas that is led by General Dennis to return the country back to democratic rule. It's quite unfortunate. You know, we say that democracy is the best form of government, and now this country is again plugged into a military dictatorship, though the military had come out to give assurances that this force is led by the combined military forces of the country. But against the background that they are accusing some people of drug laws being importing arms into the country to cause chaos in that country, though these stories are unable to verify at this moment. But what is more worrisome is that the generality of the citizens of Guinea-Bissau, you know, were committed to the civil rule, having gone out to vote and choose who will be their leader, you know, in the next cycle, and we are waiting for that announcement, which was why our former president, Goodluck Jonathan, is in that nation as part of the delegation of Africa Elders Forum, you know, to see to the peaceful process of that, you know, that democratic process where people have gone out to cast their votes and that. But it's quite unfortunate that we are witnessing this at this time. We just pray that the military will heed, you know, to the call of the ECOWAS and AU and return that country back to democratic, you know, process as soon as possible. And why is it more worrisome? You see that the military, whenever they come in, the first they will do is to, you know, they will cancel press freedom. You are not free to, you know, air your views or publicize what is going on in the country. These are the first casualty wherever you have military in governance, and it's quite unfortunate because be what it may, you may not see that this will be a danger to development in this nation if going by information that is made available. Because if the military, were meant to be in governance, then most nations all over the world wouldn't jettison military rule. But you see that military rule is being frowned upon because it's a dictatorship on its own and doesn't, embolden the common will of the generality of the populace. But we hope and pray that, be that as it may, that the military juntas will heed to the call from ECOWAS and return Guinea-Bissau to the, to democratic rule.
All right, thank you very much for that. And now that is a roundup for your newspaper headlines this morning. And do not forget that you can grab physical copies from any of your favorite vendor or catch the paper online for more broader information. I will be right back after the break.
The Arena with Chris and Ibogo is the platform where we meet to take critical analysis of burning and topical issues and matters in the society as to proper solutions on making the society better.
You came into office, you locked the door to everybody. Nobody can even access you. You don't even play the politics.
Month in, month out, year in, year out.
The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless. It will take the broad mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose ox is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last blood.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on The Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
On Aneke TV. Now we'll be taking a look at our sports update for today. Former Chelsea defender Gary Cahill has cautioned Arsenal not to rule Manchester City out of the Premier League this title race. He believes City have the depth and experience to recover and challenge strongly. Manchester City currently sit third on the table, 7 points behind leaders. Arsenal head off their match against Leeds United this weekend. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta has commended defenders Christian Mosquera and William Saliba for the impressive form ahead of Sunday's clash with Chelsea. Both players were key in Team 3-1 Champions League win over Bayern Munich. Mosquera joined Arsenal from Valencia in summer and has quickly become a strong presence at the back. Saliba, who arrived from Saint Etienne in 2019, continues to be a cornerstone of the club's defense.
And here is over to the Europa League updates on the matches that were played yesterday. We had Roma, the former Italian giants, hosting FC Midtjylland and walloping them 2-1. And then the match between Aston Villa and Young Boys, the Villas were not a hospitable host as they beat the Young Boys 2-1. And the match in Portugal between FC Porto and Nice ended 3-0. The match played between Fenerbahce and Ferencváros ended 1-1 apiece. And then the visitors with Feyenoord, talking about Celtic, that with Feyenoord beating them 3-1. And the match played in France between Lille and Dynamo Zagreb ended with Lille thrashing Zagreb 4-0. And Ludogorets between Celta Vigo, the match ended 3-2. And then between Victoria Plzeň and Freiburg, the match ended on draw 0-0. They shared points in that match. And the match between Bologna and Salzburg ended 4-1. And then in other area we had match between Genk and Basel ending in favor of Genk with 2-1. And then Real Go Ahead Eagles hosted the German Stuttgart. The German Stuttgart, we are not very keen guests as they beat their host 4-0 in that very match. And then moving over to other match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Lyon. We'll see Lyon in this very match beating Maccabi Tel Aviv 0. The match between Nottingham Forest and Malmo FF ended in favor of Nottingham Forest, beating their guests 3-0 in that very match. And then we'll move over to the matches that will be played today. We're expecting in La Liga that we'll see Getafe will be hosting Elche in that match, and then moving over to Germany, where the match between Borussia Mönchengladbach will be hosting RB Leipzig, and then going to Italy, where we'll see Como 9007 will be hosting Sassuolo today. These are the matches for today.
All right, thank you very much for that. And now we'll be going over to our celebration for today, which is the 28th November of 2025. And now today's celebration is the World Compassion Day. Today the world is pausing to celebrate World Compassion Day, a beautiful reminder that kindness is not just an action, that it's a lifestyle. Kindness is not just an action, but rather it is a lifestyle, a language, and a healing force that every human being understands. Like I said, today is the World Compassion Day. In a world where everyone is rushing, struggling, and trying to survive, this day calls for us to slow down and pay attention to people around us. And our compassion goes beyond sympathy. It is the ability to feel with people, to step into their shoes, and to respond with love, support, care, or listening, or even understanding. Now this day, it means seeing someone's pain and choosing not to ignore it. It means noticing when a neighbor is overwhelmed, when a friend quietly needs help, or when a stranger could use a simple smile. Now compassion turns ordinary moments into acts of humanity. So today being World Celebration and World Compassion Day is calling for us to show compassion, show kindness, show a listening ear, or give a lending hand to someone in need today. And also on this day, we are encouraged to drop the walls that divide us, walls of culture, religion, or status, or even belief, and simply be human first. Now, happy World Compassion Day to everyone around here, and please let us know what you're celebrating. And also now we'll be moving to our business stock update.
All right, on the stock market update, the Nigerian equities market, as measured by the Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index (ASI), closed slightly positive on Wednesday, November 27, 2025. The market gained ground driven by positive sentiment, notably in major blue-chip stocks like MTN, and strong performance across the banking and insurance sectors. All-Share Index edged up by 0.12% to close at approximately 143,064.57 points. Market capitalization increased, reflecting the marginal gain in the index. Then, the market saw more advancing stocks than declining stocks, top 3 gainers versus 20 losers, indicating a positive sentiment overall. Here is where we'll bring you the top 5 gainers when the market closed as at yesterday. The market leaders yesterday was Ikeja Hotel PLC, traded as Ikeja Hotel, where they closed at 27.50 kobo, with a tremendous plus of 10.00%. And then the next is Linkage Assurance PLC, which is traded as Link Assure. They closed at 1 naira 87 kobo, making a plus a change percent of 10.00%. And then next is Len Africa, that was on the losing side yesterday, but yesterday closed positively, which is being traded as Len Africa. It gained plus 9.96%, closing at 5 naira 74 kobo. Next is NCR Nigeria PLC, which is traded as NCR, which closed at 54 naira 65 kobo, making a tremendous plus 9.96%. And then next is Union Daikon Salt PLC, which is traded as Union Daikon, that closed yesterday at 6 naira 90 kobo, making a plus 9.52%. Here's where we'll take you over to the losers yesterday. And top of the losers yesterday is Champion Breweries, which is traded as Champion. They closed yesterday at 12 naira 35 kobo, making a minus change of 9.85%, followed by Vetiva Graphene, which is equally traded as Vetiva Graphene 30 ETF, closing at 58.10 kobo with a minus change of 9.22%. Next, the third in the losing rank is Sterling Financial Holding Company PLC, which is traded as Sterling Fin Holdings, closing yesterday at 7 naira 15 kobo with minus 8.3% change. Next is Vetiva Industrial ETF, which is traded as Vetiva Industrial ETF, closing yesterday at 55 naira with a minus 8.3% change. Then the last on the list, which is the fifth on the table, top five losers, is UPDC PLC, which is traded as UPDC, closing yesterday at 5 naira 0.2 kobo, and then making a change of minus 8.23%. However, we need to warn you that the Nigerian stock market activities for November 2025 stock prices and market data are subject to change and should be verified with a certified financial expert before you make an investment. And as we speak to you, the market has opened this morning and is trading.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now, that is all for today here on Sunrise on Aneke TV. Do not forget to follow us on our social media handles across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, all at Aneke TV. And don't forget to call us on 070-3043-7110. It's always a pleasure having you here on Sunrise every morning. I am Deborah Wakaba.
And I'm Uche Osai. Remember, you're not here to be average. Be unique. Keep watching Aneke TV. So we'll come your way same time next week. Bye-bye. The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless. It will take the broad mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose heart is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last blood.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices. Uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on The Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
Beauty is not a mirror's gift. It lives deeper in how we listen, how we love, how we live. It's the kindness that lingers and the courage that doesn't quit. The world may sell perfection, but real beauty is flawed, fierce, and free. It's in stretch marks and smile lines, in stories and scars. When you see someone who glows, it's not their skin, it's their soul breaking through. That's beauty, raw, radiant, and real.